It's bad for your liver.
Huh?
I'm getting a sinking suspicion that, huh? Is the word that best describes you.
Fucking fuck you, dude. What do you got there?
What the fuck?
Setting an alarm, a reminder to get your ass kicked?
I wouldn't poke the bear, pal.
Huh?
Oh, there it is again.
Dude, don't make me fuck you up in here, alright, man? You look like a fucking stepdad. I don't give a shit.
The story opens on a stolen police cruiser racing down a Nevada highway. The man behind the wheel looks terrified, like someone is closing in on him. He keeps pushing the car until the engine finally dies on a deserted, sandy stretch in Nevada. With the cruiser broken down and no other way forward, he grabs his suitcase filled with money and important documents he stole from his client and starts walking toward the Nevada border. Elsewhere near the same border, two police officers are taking a casual snack break during their patrol. The young rookie policewoman named Valerie is chatting with her sergeant, Mitchell, when she is surprised to hear that he bought a gun as a birthday gift for his daughter's 21st. Valerie reacts to the story, then tries out her own service gun, moving it in quick, sharp motions like a cowboy showing off their draw. Their break ends when a call comes in about a commotion at a wedding near the Nevada casino. They head straight to the scene. When they arrive, the situation is already chaotic. Several people are fighting outside the building. Valerie steps out of the car and fires a single warning shot into the air to break through the noise and stop the crowd. Before she can get full control, someone suddenly attacks her from behind. He sucker punches Valerie and knocks her to the ground. It is the same man who fled the stolen cruiser earlier. The other officers immediately point their guns at him, forcing him to raise his hands. His name is Teddy. A moment later, Valerie regains consciousness, pulls out her taser, and fires, electrocuting Teddy and bringing him down. During the arrest, a mysterious figure is seen watching from a distance, standing apart from the crowd and focused on Teddy. With that start, we're recapping the 2021 action thriller movie, Cop Shop. Please consider supporting my channel before we jump to the best part. Back to the story. Later, Valerie brought Teddy to the station on charges of aggravated assault against a police officer. Once they arrived, officers searched him. They opened his suitcase and found the large amount of money he had been carrying and several important documents, all of which were confiscated as evidence. During the search, Valerie noticed a gunshot wound on Teddy's stomach and asked what had happened, but he stayed quiet and refused to explain. After that, Teddy was taken to the holding area at the back of the station and placed alone in a cell, separated from the other inmates. Meanwhile, in the main room, Mitchell received a call reporting that some of his officers had nearly been struck by a car speeding recklessly down the road. The driver turned out to be extremely drunk, so the officers brought the man back to the station. He had no identification, so they logged him into the registry as John Doe. When they searched him, they found only one device that he claimed was for his insulin shots.
Talking about diabetes, you diabetic, aren't you?
Not every fat guy has diabetes.
He was then booked for DUI and placed in a cell with another drunk inmate, in the cell directly across from Teddy. The new arrival could barely stand from how intoxicated he seemed, swaying in place inside his cell. But once the officer stepped away, he revealed his true purpose.
What are you in for?
What are you in for?
I sucker punched a cop.
No, that's not what you're in for.
What'd you do?
Did what I had to do to get in here, to get to you, Teddy.
The drunken man was actually Bob, a professional assassin sent to kill Teddy. Bob had purposely pretended to be drunk and crashed into the officers so he would get arrested and end up in the same place as Teddy. One of Teddy's clients had hired him because Teddy had stolen money and valuable documents, and Teddy had fled to the police station as a desperate attempt to protect himself from the hitman chasing him. The moment Teddy saw Bob in the front cell, he realized who the man really was. Terrified, he shouted for help, but no one in the station heard him. He then tried bargaining, offering Bob double whatever his client was paying. But Bob, being a professional assassin, refused without hesitation and made it clear that he would still complete his mission to kill Teddy. Bob's cellmate, who is also a drunken prisoner, slowly begins to regain his senses. The man clearly does not like sharing his space and starts picking on Bob, mocking him and trying to provoke him. He has no idea that the quiet man inside the cell with him is a dangerous assassin. Bob checks his watch and sees the timer counting down. He has already planted a small incendiary device disguised as an insulin pump, and the moment it activates, the fire alarm blasts through the station with loud sirens and sudden chaos. Using quick and precise movements, Bob knocks his cellmate to the ground with a brutal strike, leaving the man coughing up blood. Bob does this on purpose, knowing the noise will bring officers straight to his cell. Sergeant Mitchell hears the alarm and rushes in to check what is happening. He bends down to look at Bob's cellmate, who is lying unconscious on the floor. Teddy tries to warn him to be careful of Bob, but before Mitchell can react, Bob attacks him from behind and grabs the gun tucked into his waist. He turns the weapon toward Teddy and fires several shots, aiming to kill him on the spot. Teddy dives under the bed just in time, avoiding the bullets. Before Bob can fire again, Valerie steps in and points her gun at him. She warns him that she will shoot if he moves. Bob surrenders, and Valerie orders Bob to handcuff himself to the iron bars of the cell. She calls for paramedics and helps get Mitchell and the injured inmate moved to the medical room. Since the medics have not arrived yet, she steps in and saves the wounded cellmate by performing an emergency tracheotomy right there in the station. Once they are secured, Valerie returns to the holding area and begins interrogating both Bob and Teddy. At first, neither of them says a word, but when she threatens to throw Teddy into the same cell as Bob, Teddy gives in and finally begins to talk. From Teddy's confession, Valerie learns that he works as a consultant for wealthy clients, government officials, and mafia groups. But instead of helping them, he has spent years running scams and walking away with their valuable assets and money. Because of that, many of his former clients have sent assassins after him. Valerie shifts her sharp gaze toward Bob, who sits on the floor with one hand cuffed to the bars. Teddy continues. Before ending up in this station, he had already turned himself in at a police station in Nevada. He explains that he had been working under criminal employers who ordered him to buy off the state's Attorney General, William Fenton. Fenton refused, secretly recorded their conversations, and was killed soon after. The recordings forced Teddy to cooperate with the FBI. Once the mob found out, they wanted him dead. When corrupt Las Vegas cops took him into the desert to execute him and steal the money he had taken from his client, the FBI arrived. A shootout broke out between the corrupt officers and the FBI, and Teddy escaped in the chaos by stealing an unmarked police car. That escape is what we saw at the beginning. Valerie decides to verify his story. She calls her fellow officer at the Nevada border, Las Vegas detective Dina, and asks whether there had been a shootout between local police and the FBI near the border, just like Teddy claimed. What Valerie does not know is that Dina is secretly one of the corrupt cops involved in that shootout and is also hunting Teddy. So when Valerie asks about it, Dina lies. After ending the call, Valerie instructs Officer Kimball to run Bob's profile through the police DNA database. Kimball mentions that Officer Huber had searched for the same thing earlier, which makes Valerie question why Huber would look into a man who had been logged only as John Doe. A moment later, Kimball finds Bob's actual profile and confirms that he has 22 cases registered but has 0 convictions. Then another profile appears on the screen, belonging to a second assassin named Anthony. According to the database, Anthony is known for being a brutal psychopath who kills his targets without hesitation. At the same time, a man carrying a bunch of balloons walks into the station. Officer Kimball looks up, recognizes him a second too late, and realizes that the man standing in front of him is Anthony, the assassin whose profile had just appeared on the computer. Before Kimball can react, Anthony raises a gun and fires straight into his face, killing him instantly. He then opens fire on every officer who rushes toward the room, catching all of them off guard. He also shoots the paramedics who arrive to treat the injured cellmate, taking them down before they can react. Officer Huber shows his true nature as a corrupt cop, and Anthony pushes him to finish the job by killing Mitchell and the wounded drunk prisoner. Both of them serve the same mobster, one of Teddy's former clients, and they are under orders to eliminate anyone in their way. Moments later, Valerie runs into the room and shouts at Anthony to drop his weapon. Instead of answering, Anthony fires his assault rifle at her with full force. Valerie jumps out of the line of fire, sprints toward the holding area, slips inside a cell, and slams the door shut behind her. Under the heavy barrage of bullets, she quickly changes the lock code and seals herself in. Now she is locked inside the cell with Teddy and Bob. The door holds firm because it is built with bulletproof material, and Anthony cannot break through even as he unloads round after round into the metal. Valerie has managed to reach safety, but one of her own ricochets hits her in the abdomen during the chaos. She slumps to the floor in pain and looks at Teddy and Bob as she tries to stay conscious. The mob wants Teddy dead for tricking them, and now both assassins are racing to kill him, each working for a different client but sharing the same goal. Outside the cell, Officer Huber appears and tries to trick Valerie by claiming that Anthony has already left the station. When she asks about the other officers, Huber tells her that Anthony killed all of them. Valerie watches him closely, not convinced by anything he is saying.
Where's the man who killed your fellow officers, Huber? Is he whispering in your ear?
Her suspicion frustrates Huber, and he finally snaps, shouting in anger before storming away and leaving her inside the cell. Not giving up, Anthony and Huber spread out the precinct's structural map and look for a weak point that connects to the cell where Teddy is trapped. They settle on a section of the wall and start smashing through it with a large hammer. The noise echoes through the holding area, and soon a heavy blow lands, creating the first hole in the wall. Inside the cell, Teddy tries to convince Valerie to release him. He promises that he will find the medicine she needs for her gunshot wound. With no other option and the wall breaking apart, Valerie reluctantly gives him the key to the cell door and her gun so he can confront Anthony before the attackers break through. Bob warns Valerie again and again not to trust Teddy because he is a con artist, but out of the two men, she chooses to trust Teddy. Seeing this, Bob tells Teddy to ask Valerie about his ex-wife and daughter. Valerie finally admits the truth. Anthony had killed Teddy's wife and child, even though she had lied earlier and told him they were safe. Hearing this, Teddy becomes furious and walks out of the cell with the gun in hand. In another room, Huber continues pounding the wall while Anthony sits nearby and watches. Suddenly, two police officers arrive for their shift. Without hesitation, Anthony shoots one of them dead. The second officer happens to be close friends with Huber, and Huber begs Anthony to spare him. Anthony agrees, but only if the officer shoots himself. Before anything else can happen, Teddy enters from the other direction and shoots the remaining officer, then moves on to hunt Anthony and Huber as they scatter and hide in another room. Hearing the gunshots from down the hallway, Valerie realizes Teddy has deceived her. She is left with no choice but to free Bob, who is still locked in the cell. Bob steps out as soon as the door opens. The entire station is dark, and Huber runs through the shadows trying to escape Teddy, only to be caught by Bob instead. Bob swiftly grabs the gun from Huber's waist and shoots him in the leg several times. Then he uses Huber as bait, holding him in place to draw Anthony into the room. Sure enough, it doesn't take long before Anthony appears and believes he has fired at someone. Bob appears from behind and launches himself into the fight, and the two assassins collide in a brutal hand-to-hand battle. Bob moves faster and looks much younger than Anthony. Anthony manages to grab a knife and swings it toward Bob's stomach, but Bob reads the attack instantly. He blocks the strike and forces the blade back into Anthony's throat, stabbing him hard. Just as Bob is about to finish Anthony off, Teddy steps into the room and fires a shot at Bob. Bob looks at him and offers Teddy the chance to kill Anthony himself. Instead of agreeing, Teddy suddenly shoots Bob and drops him to the ground, then steps closer and fires a final shot at Anthony to make sure he is dead. Teddy does not help Valerie. Instead, he sets the station on fire, letting the flames spread. He staggers into the kitchen during the chaos and tries to eat a sandwich, only to be confronted by Valerie, who has treated her gunshot wound and injected herself with adrenaline. Valerie tells him that he won't escape because she has already contacted the FBI, and the entire 20-mile perimeter is locked down. Hearing this, Teddy becomes furious and throws a jerry can of gasoline at her. Valerie dodges it and runs upstairs while Teddy chases after her. Valerie fires her last remaining round and hits Teddy square in the chest, sending him falling onto the cupboard below. She comes down to check on him, but suddenly she is shot again from the side. Her body armor saves her. The shooter is Detective Dina, the corrupt cop who helped cover up the earlier FBI shootout at the Nevada border and who has also been hunting Teddy. The two women face each other, while Dina stands in front of her with a long rifle aimed at her head. Before Dina can fire, a gunshot hits her. It is Bob. He has somehow survived Teddy's earlier attack and managed to escape. Bob steps closer to Teddy, who lies limp and unable to move, and finishes his job by shooting him twice. With his contract fulfilled, he takes Teddy's belongings, including the money and stolen documents the police had confiscated, and heads out. He leaves in a police car just as the paramedics arrive at the burning station. Valerie is treated by the medics, but she refuses to stay down. She climbs into the ambulance and drives out after Bob, determined not to let him disappear. Out on the road, Bob drives calmly through the empty Nevada desert and calls his client to say the mission is complete. He has killed Teddy and secured the money and documents. Valerie speeds after him in the ambulance, both of them listening to the same song echoing through their radios as the chase continues. Well, that's the end of this story. How did you like this recap? Let me know in the comments below.